Lakshmi. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Lakshmi said, I'm going to go do a kind of a deep down dive to share with you our experience of what we have done. So this is something I just thought I'd put up about the Indian BPO scenario. It's growing fast. Several challenges have emerged, but I'm not going to talk about it now. We know about it. We know what are the challenges, and it would take a month of Sundays to try and complete that. So that's not something I'm going to talk about. Let me at the outset say that we are not pioneers as far as rural BPO is concerned. There are several others who started and who have kind of laid a foundation, who've given a level of confidence that allows us to take what I still believe is a leap of faith. Because most of the organizations, most of the BPO companies that decided to get into rural BPO tried to do work which was non-voice related. In that respect, I think we've been a little different. We've tried to do voice-related work from villages. I've got a list of some organizations which have ventured and taken the bold step of getting into rural BPO. There are many more. This is just an illustrative list. We partnered with two NGOs. One is the Bairaju Foundation in Andhra Pradesh, and the other is the Tata Society for Rural Development, Tata Chemical Society for Rural Development in Mithapur in Gujarat. And this is a study that has been carried out by the Bairaju Foundation's Gram IT wing, which is what is their vehicle to propel IT into the villages. They carried out a capability study. They shared it with us, and this, in a way, created a lot of confidence as far as we were concerned to try and get into villages to handle call centers. If you notice, the real difference between an urban and a rural average was the assessment that they carried out. Two aspects had a significant difference. One was language and communication, and the other was English. English was easily addressed by deciding not to do English out of the rural areas. So we decided we will go first and do only whatever the regional language there was. In Andhra Pradesh we would handle Telugu calls, in Mithapur we would handle Gujarati calls. Language and communication required a little more effort because if you're handling calls, you needed to have people who would be able to communicate. And we tried to use the fact that there were the study that Gram IT carried out indicated that the rural prospective employees had a reasonable facility in maths, physics, and chemistry. We've tried to use that as a base to say that if they're reasonably facile with maths, physics, and chemistry, it should translate into some level of analytical and reasoning aptitude. We're still not there. We're still trying to figure out how do we exactly correlate that with this, but we made some progress, and the results, the proof of the pudding is in eating, and the results are promising. So what is it that we've done? I believe that the effort that we've put in is really the first voice-based work that is being done from rural India. We have 200-seaters functioning in two locations. One is in rural Andhra Pradesh in a village called Isakota. To give you an idea of this village, the 2001 census indicated that the population was 4,515. It's a 90-seater operation. It's been functional since November 2007. It's handling inbound telecom-related calls. Approximately 5,000 calls is what it handles per day. Our experience there has been good. We are now looking to ramp it up to 150 by March and possibly take it to about 250 by June, July. Handling Telugu calls only. In Gujarat, we've gone into Mithapur on the Tata Chemicals factory location there. We've got a 100-seater operation which is functioning from there. It's been functioning for the last 4 to 6 weeks, handling similar work, about 3,500 calls per day. What we also realized that most of the call centers that operate out of cities use education as a base level entry criteria. For example, a person who's a graduate automatically translates into a person who has the ability to do several things, which a non-graduate is deemed not to have. We've gone through the issue of employability of graduates, whether they are employable, they have a graduate tag, but they're not employable. So some BPOs have dropped their threshold to what we call is a class 12 pass. We've actually gone a step further. We've tried to redefine what a call center agent is based on what he's supposed to do. So it's not necessarily a graduate, it's not necessarily a class 12 pass. It's a guy, one criteria is a person who is willing to learn, and the second is a person who has an ability to communicate. He must be able to talk and explain on the phone. And we've figured out a couple of ways which are interesting, to say the least, of trying to find out whether this guy can communicate. We've tried doing group discussions and found that doesn't get us anywhere. So in our interview, we sit and talk to people, ask them to describe a problem that they have. The problem could be the fact that they didn't get their groceries at the shop that they went to in the village. Something that they're able to relate to. If one were to give them an esoteric topic which they're not able to relate to, communication breaks down. So to make them feel at home and give them an opportunity to talk about something that they're comfortable with. Struggle at home trying to get their son to do something that the mother wants him to do. So get them to talk, see how good are they in communicating. Try and see if there is an intent to learn, if the individual is showing a propensity of hunger to learn. We're still not linked it. We're trying to figure out how do we really close that. But that's the kind of approach that we are taking. So it doesn't matter whether the individual is a class 10 pass, a class 10 fail. If he meets these two criteria, we're fine. We'll go with it. What we've also done, and one should keep in mind that we're moving live operations to rural India. The customer is not willing to accept a degradation in quality. So what we've done is, we're doing a fade in, fade out. We train the individuals, spent nearly 3 times the amount of time to train them. Training them in soft skills, training them in computer skills, training them with the process itself, and segregating calls to make sure that the simpler calls go first before the more complex calls go, and so on and so forth. So we put all of that. Then did a fade in, fade out. So our hub, which is in Hyderabad for Ithakota, and Pune, which is the hub for Mithapur, handle most of the calls, and we allow calls to move on a trickle feed basis. For a few calls were given, immediate feedback was provided by our people who were sitting there. We deputed our trainers and our team leaders for periods of 3 to 4 months. They went there, handheld the agents, explained to them what needs to be done. Then a new batch went, because a lot of people from cities are not comfortable going and staying in villages for extended periods of time. So we had to overcome that. What is very heartening is for calls that we have sent off to Andhra Pradesh, rural India, Ithakota, the calls that have been handled have started eliciting appreciative comments from customers. And the customer doesn't know that this is being handled from rural India. So the appreciative comment is not because it is being handled from rural India, but because the call has been genuinely handled well. For that customer, the call could be handled out of Hyderabad or Ithakota. It's transparent as far as the customer is concerned. So there is no bias that because it is from rural India, I need to give this guy more leeway. That's not the case. Looking ahead, what we are trying to do is to start at least 4 more locations. We are in the process of identifying some. We have identified a couple. Over the next 4 to 6 months, to start small, 25, 30, 40 seaters, 50 seaters. Check it out. If it works, then look to ramp up. And maybe in about 6 to 9 months, try and figure out whether English calls for domestic market can be handled out of these centers.